Pavlov, one of my favorite games in Oculus, and one of the most popular free shooters, and my love for it is slowly dying, unfortunately. Now, that doesn't mean I won't stop making Pavlov content, but number one, people in S&D are unreasonably salty. I mean, I expect some salt, but not a Twitter user's salt. Now, I understand that it's just meant to be funny, and I also like watching people getting unreasonably mad at a video game. Dear viewer, I think some of us can agree AK dominates servers. Whether you think it's good or not, or too good or too OP, we can all admit AK dominates servers. But personally, I do not like AK. I use it very few times, and only if we're losing. I typically use the mini AK, or AKA the Vector. You can decide if that's a pun or not. Which is better in my opinion. It requires, well, first off, it's not a one tap, so it's not, the skill ceiling is a little bit higher. And second, I think it's just a better SMG overall. It's not meta, but it's definitely better. TDM is now just not fun. I use TDM to warm up for S&D, but I've gotten full hour games just screwing around now. I just typically just meme in there like dual revolvers, but there's only one bullet, which I think be a good aim train, to be honest. Or dueling P90s or dueling LMGs, and just dueling things that should never be dueled in the first place. But when an entire team is using meta weapons like M4 and AK, it's not fun. It makes the game feel really competitive, or unreasonably competitive, in Team Deathmatch. I expect that in Search and Destroy. Who tries hard in Team Deathmatch? Just go and play Search and Destroy or Deathmatch. If you really want salt and competitiveness, play Deathmatch. That's like, please, do not invade your AK here, of all places. Please, spare us, all. AK is one tap, so people will naturally gravitate towards that weapon, and I'm not gonna get actually mad at that. I actually never complained about AK again if the G3 on Red Team was just as good as AK. If anybody complained about AK on one team, I'd say, well, we have the G3. But it's just worse in every way. The sights are worse, the bullet drop is garbage, and there's just less ammo. 20 bullets versus 30, who do you think's gonna come out on top? And also the AK just sounds better with, a suppressor on it. Also, don't put suppressor on your guns, it takes away damage. G3 is the AK's little brother, except everybody bullies G3 for not being its older brother, the AK. And I know the argument is the recoil and the sights, but anyone with 2 brain cells would single fire at the gun at distances more than 10 feet away, and the sights, well, they're pretty bad. I mean, they're just blurry, especially with Pavlov, they're not very good. AK is handicapped in that realm. I know. Now, I know I use AK in these clips, but in that full video, you can't hear the audio. But when I was in there, it was about 15 minutes Oh my god, I screwed that up so bad. Why? I use video, but in that full video, you can't hear the audio, but I used it to prove a point. I'm not kidding, in that video, I used AK for the first time ever. I just avoided it, because I did not like it. I got 120 kills when there was about 15 minutes on OG containers. That video was the motivation for me making this. It shows that guns in this game do determine who wins a fight. I'd only get that amount of kills with a regular gun or a meme duel in about a full hour. Headshot after headshot, it solidified in my head that AK dominates because it's one tap. And if that's obvious, high damage and you can reliably spray and pray. I honestly like the system better of both teams in S&D having access to all guns, and maybe even World War II guns. Now, someone please tell me why the dev made this decision to do this, and I'll take it back, gratefully, and I will give my respects to, Fang Drop. Now, of course, I won't give mindless criticism without giving my input and whether I would change AK and how I would. You know, if I ran the world, this should be perfect kind of situation. Either make the G3 the exact same stats, like to the letter, not just make G3 and AK one taps. Or completely avoid that and not even make them one taps at all. Either lower the recoil or keep the recoil the same, but it can't one tap people, and it has a damage buff ever so slightly. I'll get more players to use another gun than the AK or G3, or even better, revive the burst weapons. I mean, burst weapons to me were just amazing. I loved using burst weapons. The AUG, the M3. I mean, now I almost never see anyone use burst weapons. But in conclusion, I don't like AK or G3 for that matter because it's an automatic rifle that dominates servers and makes everyone salty, including me. And the fact that they're one tap makes them super enticing for new players and they never branch out to any other gun. It creates a meta weapon that everybody uses and makes it really boring to play in the game. Also, quick side note, if your teammate is talking to an enemy, please don't kill the enemy. It's annoying, and don't try and kick your teammate if they try and kill you for doing so. I've just tried to chew at the enemy and some oblivious dumbass comes in with his LMG or AK and mows down everybody and says on the radio, "Upstairs is clear," not even taking the chance to realize I was just talking to somebody. Anyways, first video ever. Hope y'all have an amazing day.